Today we're doing a tune review on a 2016 Z06 that seems to be having an idling issue. Stick around. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the garage, and we're back with another tune review, and we've got one of our patrons out there, John, that has an issue specifically with Hot Idle on his 2016 Z06. Let's see what he says. When it gets hot, idle gets worse. When I come to a stop or decel, idle timing will still dip down. So something to be aware of right off the bat. This is a 5th gen vehicle, and so it's going to be torque based. We're going to be looking at torque versus airflow like we do on the 3rd and 4th gen stuff. So we're going to try and figure out what's going on. Car has bigger heads, bigger cam, bigger supercharger, bigger intake, car's got everything bigger, which just makes everything a little bit worse. But often what we see in this particular situation is that we are going to be dealing with the cam. So we're going to go ahead and dive into the log first, see if we can take a look at what might be happening. We'll be focusing on our spark over here. That's going to be at 12.2. We're idling at the end of it, and it dips down. Let's see how low it gets. It's kind of hunting around, and that's to be expected. It gets a little bit low sometimes, but not as low as I'm used to seeing on some of these 5th gen platforms, where we'll often see spark get down into the negatives even, and that's whenever there's an indication that the torque table is really off in the idle area. This one's actually not that bad, and so what I'm seeing more than anything right here is that we've got a very aggressive cam. And to try and possibly smooth some of that out, let's open up the file here. This should be it. John Z06 idle issue. We want to probably dive into things like our adaptive idle, our speed control in particular. And remember, we've got 2 of them on a torque-based platform. We've got immediate and predicted. We think of immediate as fast-acting torque and predicted as slow-acting torque. What all that really means is immediate is generally spark, predicted is going to be throttle body. And so we're concerned more about immediate here, wanting to calm down the immediate. We can open this up, and this is an actual error graph that shows that if we are on 0 RPM error, there's going to be 0 changes to the torque. Now, these are torque numbers out here, and it's saying that if our RPM is at -15, -25, we're going to make an adjustment out there. And this actually looks backwards, which is very interesting because it's saying that we would want to pull 3% torque if our RPM error was -15. But think of it this way: if our RPM was needing to come down maybe 15, that's what it means. But we'll talk about that later on because that actually looks very interesting, looks very backwards. I've not seen it that way. You would think that it work the other way. I'm guessing, though, that John has not made any adjustments to this. But what we do want to do is kind of zero out some of this error. And that way we're not sending so much timing adjustments through the predicted speed or the immediate speed control, not predicted. We're not having so much an issue on predicted through the immediate speed control. So let's say that we want to start out with a 25 RPM error, and what we're going to come in and do is we'll actually take our row here that's one over, let's copy it, and let's move it down to our 25 and paste that. And then I'm going to grab a couple rows over here and just smooth between horizontal boundaries here, make it kind of fall in line. And then I'm going to 0 this row out here. And I'm going to do the same over here. I'm going to take our 15% our 15 RPM error up here. I'm going to bring this one over to 25, paste this one in, 0 this one out, and then I'm going to kind of smooth this one. Maybe not as much because you can see it's a pretty gradual or a pretty heavy ramp up if you have overspeed on there. And so let's smooth it just a little bit, and we can always come in here and do our 2 level to show our error curves. And there's our 0, we're flat, and you can always come in here and make this a little bit bigger if you're still having issues. So after the fact, if it's still hunting idle a little bit, maybe you need to 0 out to 25 RPM error and then smooth those out so it's making torque adjustments outside of that. Now, if it were a situation where the RPM was getting very, very negative, or the timing was getting very negative, we need to come in here and look at our virtual torque tables. And on top of that, we have to be able to track that back to where we're at on our air mass versus our RPM, because that's how our virtual torque tables are going to be set up. We've got our RPM range in here, and we can look at what our idle set point is. We can go into base set point and say we're looking for 850. So if we're looking for 850, we're going to be right between these two rows right here, and then we can look at our spark air mass. Hopefully this log has spark air mass on it. Let's see if we can find some air mass. Scrolling down through here, he's got about everything, so I wouldn't be surprised. Where is the air mass? Okay, cylinder air mass here, we're at 220 milligrams. We come back in here. That means that we are idling in these 4 cells generally. And what we want to look at in these 4 cells is if your timing is low, you need to lower down the torque in this area. Now, if your timing is high, if you're idling at 20, 25 degrees of timing at idle, which will really heat everything up. If you're running that much advanced, you'll start seeing exhaust manifolds glow, things like that. You're going to want to raise these things up. It sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but trust me, it works. And I've got a whole series out there talking about adjusting just the torque tables. Now, keep in mind, if you have to adjust these tables, say we want to come down here and we want to take 5 foot-pounds out of that. Let's actually make that -5 so we can take 5 out. We'll put that in there. Whenever we make the adjustments, you saw this one went further negative. This one went down. Whenever we extrapolate these are going to change because they have to match a function curve. So 13, 19, 29, 21, we extrapolate. Now we've got 10, 16, 32, 24. So they both came back up. You might have to make these adjustments a few times, and then you might have to spread these adjustments out and do some interpolation or some smoothing to get those adjustments to play nice. But that is one way that you can attack Gen 5 idle issues. I think in John's situation that probably speed control might help him out. And then if that calms down what he's seeing, where the idle or the timing is not just, look at that, that is fighting it. We add a little air room in there that should smooth that out, make it a lot easier to see where you're actually at, and then you can make adjustments to your tune after that. So hopefully this helps some of you guys out there that are dealing with a 5th gen idle issue, specifically on a big hefty car like what John's got going, where he's got new cams, new heads, new blower, all that stuff. And that's when it gets really complicated to get things like the idle dialed in. So if you got any questions, hit up the comments down below. If you're interested in getting your tune featured on something like this, make sure and check out the Patreon over at GoatRopeGarage.com. Pick yourself up a t-shirt. I've actually got an HP Tuners t-shirt on right now, which reminds me, thank you to them for sponsoring our channel as always. And if you haven't picked up your MPVI 2 or you need an extra set of credits, make sure to use the code down below, GRGarage, all caps. That will get you free shipping and a free t-shirt. Just add the t-shirt to the basket before you check out. Then whenever you put the code in, it will subtract the price of your free t-shirt. So big shout out to those guys out there. I'm going to get back to it. You guys know the drill. Thanks for stopping by the garage. Always be tuning.